following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Hi, everybody. This is former WWE superstar Al Snow.
CW Anderson.
Sean Oliver.
My name is Eugene.
And you are watching the Insider's Edge podcast.
Now get on the train.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, California Inferi. Great to be with you all once again, and this is a massive honor for me here tonight and today for my lovely guest here at this time. She's intelligent, she's fun, she's wonderful, she's beautiful, she is the perfect 10. She's the one and only Baby Doll. How are you, my friend?
Thank you. That's quite an introduction. Thank you so much. Fun and intelligent. That's a good combination.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited to talk to you today. And I know, like most of the time when I start these interviews, the first question is like, how did you become a fan of the wrestling business before you ended up being a part of it? But in your case, your parents were actually involved in the wrestling business. Would you be able to tell me a little bit about them, and what it was like growing up with wrestlers as parents?
It was very unique. I grew up in West Texas, which is farm country. It's cattle and cotton. My dad had the wrestling promotion for a little over 20 years. So we had everybody go through there, from like the Sheik, Dick Murdoch, Dory Jr., Terry Funk, Dusty Rhodes, Tully when he first started out, the Von Erichs, Ricky Romero, Cyclone Negro, Blackie Gordman. It was just, it seemed like every 3 months somebody new was coming in. So it was really cool. Plus then my dad was on TV every Saturday, promoting the matches. My mom was beautiful. She had like movie star good looks, and it's a blessing that I was born into a wrestling family, because if I was born into a wrestling family or into a family that didn't like wrestling, I would have been in trouble, because I love wrestling. And it was just so cool, just waiting for 605 Georgia Championship Wrestling to come on, or like traveling on vacations and getting the TV guide and seeing when the wrestling shows were on, so you could see like the new talent, or like going to Minnesota and seeing AWA, or traveling to Georgia where my grandparents were at, and seeing the local shows there. It was really cool.
Yeah, that would be fun. Big difference between your fandom as you're growing up and me being all the way over here. I didn't get to see wrestling until I was about 16, 17 live, but that's pretty cool. Yeah, so okay, I think from one of our previous conversations we had a little bit of chat on Twitter. I believe you mentioned that your parents wrestled in Australia. Is that correct?
My mom did. Mom, it would have been like the late 50s, wrestled for about a year in Australia. In fact, she had a miscarriage there, so kind of bittersweet, because she really, really liked it. But then losing the child, she remembered swimming in the ocean and just having a great time. And then all of a sudden they started ringing the bells and yelling for everybody to come in. And it was the sharks that come over the reef where they could see them. And she's trying to figure out what's going on. And everybody's like running past her in this big hysteria until she realized that there were sharks coming in. So
yeah, it can be a little bit wild down here.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that with me. Okay. Time wears on in your life. I believe at one stage you trained to be an EMT. Is that correct? How's sorry, please continue.
I was going to go to school for EMT and then be a paramedic so I could ski patrol up in Colorado. I wanted to do the ski patrol, but things went a different way.
Things went a different way, and I'm guessing they went the way of you going to world class in 1984 to be a valet for Gino Hernandez.
Right. I had just a couple of weeks left in the class and was doing very well in it, and really, really liked it. Whenever the opportunity came up to go to Dallas. Had to tell my parents that I was quitting school. I'd already had 4.5 years of college and just taking like general classes because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but still was on that college path in the right way. And then all of a sudden do the 180 and, oh, by the way, I'm moving to Dallas and going to work as Gino's valet. So a very disappointing moment, I'm sure, for them.
I can understand that. I often think of when I told my dad when I was younger that I wanted to be a wrestler when I grew up. It looked, the look in his face, it looked like I told him I wanted to be a ventriloquist or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
He was not impressed. I want to ask about the punk rock look that you kind of had back then. It was really cool. Were you influenced? Did you like that kind of music? What made you go that route with your look?
I really, back then, I liked everything. I kind of took the look off from like Billy Idol, Rod Stewart, the B-52s, and Adamant. It was kind of the whole genre thing. So it was kind of cool because they give you so much leeway with your character. They did back then. You could pretty much do whatever you wanted to. And I had to look big and tough, and Gino's bodyguard, so he wouldn't have anyone that was pretty or glamorous, but he'd really have someone that was unique and different. And I just kind of went off that. Plus then having the gauntlets and the chains protected me from the fans, because the fans would come up and hit you and you'd get to hit them back. So it was nice to be a little loaded. And the biggest challenge for me was like jumping up into the ring every night, because not every town had stairs for the ring. So when you're thinking you're jumping up into something that's maybe 4 foot, almost 5 foot tall, and you have to do it gracefully, yeah. That was the biggest thing for me, was how am I getting in and out of the ring without like busting loose anywhere?
Absolutely. So okay. I wanted to ask this because there's probably a lot of people out there, wrestling fans. I want to ask for the layman out there, your duties, performing with Gino, as being at ringside with him. It's not just walking out there and just standing at ringside and cheering him on. There's more to it than that. I wanted you to kind of like let everyone know out there exactly, what goes into a job like this.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you've got a town that night, if you've got to work, you have to get all your gear together. You have to pack everything that you're going to take with you, including meals, drinks, whatever you need for the possible 18 to 24 hours you're going to be gone. So you've got to pack all your gear up, get ready to go. You probably have 200 miles to drive. So you get in the car, you probably would pick someone up on the way. You get to the town, you're supposed to be to the show an hour to an hour and a half before the bell time, or before the doors open. So let's say the doors open at 7 and the bell time is 8. So that means you've got to be there between 5:30 and 6. Then you've got to get ready and wait. And there's a lot of waiting and a lot of waiting and a lot of waiting. And then you're tired. So I would try and get a room off to myself so I could maybe get an hour or two of sleep before I'd have to drive back again, because I did almost all the driving. And then you get all hyped up, and then you work your match, which is 20, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. You get out, you're just at the peak of adrenaline, and now you've got to drive 200 miles to go back home. And it's exhausting. It's fun. You get to see a lot of the country, and then you don't get to see a lot of the country because you're just traveling and not getting to go the side routes. It's a very unique lifestyle, and either you can do it or you can't. It's kind of like taking bumps and learning how to wrestle. Your body will tell you no matter how much you want to be a wrestler and do all the things. At some point, your body says, no, I can't take this. The same thing with travel. It's exhausting. The first year I worked with Tully, I only had 15 days off the whole year. I had no holidays, no weekends, no nothing, 15 days off the whole year. And the rest of it was traveling. I got like 1 million frequent flyer miles with Eastern, just in like a year and a half. It's crazy. Whatever you think it is, whatever you think it is, it's more. Because not only did you have to do that day, then the next day you have to get up and maybe have to drive a 300-mile trip and then spend the night and then drive another 300 to go to the show and then another 300 to get back home. That was not unusual. So a lot of driving, a lot of airports. It's just, it's crazy, but it's fun. It was just, it's indescribable. And the only way I could really tell you is whatever you think it is, it's more than what you could even imagine.
Wow, awesome. I did my research and I think this was your first in-ring performance. Correct me if I'm wrong, because the internet can be incorrect quite a lot of the time. The 30th of September, 1984, San Antonio, Texas, yourself and Gino take on Kevin Von Erich and Stella Mae French in a time limit draw. Would that be the first time that you performed in the ring, or am I wrong?
The first time was, I remember it was the Sunday before Labor Day. So what date did you have on that?
I had the 30th of September.
So that's too late. I remember it was the Sunday before Memorial Day, but it was Joe Harry Coliseum, and Gino actually won the match. I thought you had a clip, that's why I put my glasses on. Gino, I think, actually won the match because he had Mike in like a head in like the sleeper hold, and they knocked Bronco out. I think Gino might have won the match because of me, because of disqualification. That would have made sense. It wouldn't have made a sense to go to a time limit draw at that point, because Gino would have to get the heat because of the win, because I cheated for him. So when I came down, I remember I hit Stella on the head with, I had like a loaded sock. It was a red, it was actually Gary Hart's sock. It was his red sock. I hit her over the head. I beat her up, went to the ring. I remember like grabbing Mike's foot, or no, I had him. I remember I jumped up on the ring and I had Mike around, you know, like a sleeper holder, reverse chin lock or something. And then Gino went off the ropes and was going to get him, but then missed me. So it was for my first match, and not being smart, because I didn't really know anything about, you know, like the fit. I kind of had an idea, but actually when they gave me the finish in the dressing room, that night was the first time I'd ever really been smart enough to wrestling, where I actually put all the pieces together. Was just like, oh, that's how they do it. I didn't let anybody know then. So
I always find that so interesting that so many people I've had on the show, that's how they found out that, you know, it was at work, was just through actually doing it.
On the way to the thing. Well, that's the way it should be. And it's ruined now and it can never go back. But that was the magic of it. You thought you knew, but you didn't know. And even now, a lot of people think they know, but they don't.
Awesome. So you spend a little bit of time there in World Class. Why did you leave the company eventually before 1985? Was it just one of those things?
It just, I knew I was only going to be like temporary. The girl that they had working, Sunshine, had gone into rehab. She had had some addiction problems and was going to get healthy and get better. And so she had just gotten out of the limelight for a little bit and gotten, went to go take care of herself. Well, in the meantime, they needed to bring in another girl to kind of take her place. So they had Stella Mae French, which was her truck driving aunt that was going to beat up Gino, that had the thing for Gino, because I guess because Gino had hurt Sunshine, then she was going to take revenge out for her. So they brought in Stella, and then because at that time, guys didn't wrestle against girls, and guys just really didn't have anything, even like when they had mixed tags, when someone tagged in, they had to tag the other partner in, because you couldn't have a guy against a girl. It was taboo. So for Gino to combat against Stella, then he would need to get a girl, which that was my part. When Sunshine came back at the Cotton Bowl in October and came down off the helicopter and everything, she was beautiful, she was healthy, she looked great, the body, the face, everything just fell. They wanted her, and that was the whole thing. So they phased us out. We only had 2 dates left, which was Christmas Day and the day after in Florida. for World Class, we went in as like a special attraction match for Florida, and that was the last two shots. And I was lucky enough that Tully and Dusty were on the card, and I was able to go to Dusty and ask him if he needed a girl. And with Tully standing right there, they were actually looking for the perfect pan. I had no idea. All the pieces fell into place. They looked at me and was just like, she is exactly what we're looking for. And I had no idea that what I was walking into, and it was perfect, and it worked. And it was just like, whenever they say that all the stars lined up, well, that certainly they all lined up that day.
Awesome. So bringing it to Tully now, just wanted to ask you what your fondest memories are of working alongside him during your time there, in the company. And yeah, just share some stories of Tully.
Oh, Tully was a character. Oh my gosh. We were so opposite, but it was so good because just the chemistry of us working together. And then with he being so cocky and just going, this is my perfect 10, everybody going, yeah, right, sure. And then him defending that. And it was just between Dusty and Tully and myself, the stories that were able to be created, it was so cool because everybody had equal amounts of everything. Nobody shone brighter than anybody else. Nobody did more than anything else. If the one thing that I can say for Tully, and I'm so thankful for, is he kept me equal with him rather than it all being him, or like him using me or getting me in the way or whatever. Whenever we did something, like whenever we burned Dusty, I handed Tully the fire rather than me burning Dusty, which was the original idea. Tully was like, no, have her hand it to me, then I'll burn them. Then we all have equal amounts of whatever heat we're going to get. And it made sense. I was so thankful that I was able to work with his genius and with Tully not letting Dusty go overboard and really taking care of me and protecting me and knowing that I was worth something to him. To this day, I'm thankful. I'm so thankful because he was so boisterous and had the girls and the extracurricular and everything. And I was kind of able to keep him more steady during that time and make sure he got to the towns and everything was good and went and got the. What's really cool is like for the first 10 months, I actually was the valet role because I remember going to the dry cleaner and getting all the dry cleaning and making all the hotel reservations and all the airport reservations and making sure everybody had all their frequent flyer miles and the rent a car. It was a fun gig. It was really fun. It was fun being one of the boys.
I can imagine. Here's an interesting, I'm sure a lot of these questions I have for you today are questions you've answered 100 times. But I'm really just, I'm interested in this. Dusty defeats Tully for the television championship on July 6, 1985 at the Great American Bash, which meant that you were forced to be Dusty's valet for 30 days. And during this time, vignettes aired in which he tried to turn you into a real lady. How fun was it doing these vignettes with Dusty?
It was really cool because you had no preparation. It was like 7 o'clock on like a Tuesday morning. Hey, we're going to go meet up at Nelson's and do I want to do a video, and you'd have to get ready and just hopefully you pack the right amount of clothes. It was Dusty's genius. And it was like with Floyd the horse, everybody worked out because with Nelson's ranch that he had right there, and the horse and little Robert and the stalls. And whenever I look back on it, they just basically gave you the idea of like, okay, just muck out the stalls and then walk down the hallway. And you kind of had to put it together like, okay, what do you want to do? And how do you want to embellish it? And take your time and, get all the stuff in and the disgust and the whole thing. And then, inside, and instead of being like disgusted, like I'm mucking out a stall, it's like, yay, I'm in a vignette, it's like, and then the idea, like with riding with Floyd and actually like putting on a saddle. They had no idea if I could put on a saddle or not. And then getting to ride and everything. And everything worked out because they just gave you the basic idea. And then through Dusty's creativity, it just worked. And to this day, people still ask, well, what happened to Floyd? He became a star for a little while.
Awesome. This is like a moment in time, that's for sure. December 28th, 1985 on NWA Worldwide Wrestling, Tully slaps you in the face. I watched footage of this recently, and wow, like it's a real slap to the face. What was the idea behind this? You know, how did you feel about it? And obviously it's something that you wouldn't see on TV these days unless it's on something like, I don't know, a crime show like Law and Order or something like that, but or maybe The Sopranos. But back then, you know, it was a little bit different time. Please tell me about this slap.
It was time for me to move on, I guess, with after the I Quit match with Magnum, and Tully and I had been together like right at a year, just almost 11 months. And so we had really kind of done everything that we could possibly do at that point. Dusty actually had the idea that he was going to put me with Buddy Landell and have Landell chase Flair for the title. But through Landell's addictions, he missed TV and nobody saw him for like a week, almost 2 weeks. And then when it came time to do the thing on TV, he never showed up. So Dusty was had already kind of made the commitment that he was going to take me from Tully. Tully was upset because we had been gold at that point, and Tully didn't like change. And Tully wasn't quite sure like where it was going to go after that. And thankfully, like with JJ and him clicked, and then the Four Horsemen were born. So it all worked out. But Tully was always like nervous about like, well, what are they going to do with us next? What's next? What's next? So I know he was really apprehensive about that. And then to turn me babyface, it really had to be one of the most violent things that he did, because it had to be over. It just, you had to rip the sheet. It was done. It was over. There was no going back. It's pretty much, bitch, I'm done with you. And that was it. And so, and he really did slap me, because I had to like post earrings, and the post actually went back into the flesh behind my ear. I had to like pull it out. But it looked good. And it's something that, you know, I don't want to say that you had to work it or pull it, but if he'd done anything else than what he'd done, it wouldn't have meant what it does now. And that's kind of the whole thing. Like whenever I hit Cornette or whenever I did anything, there's no question it's real. And I wanted that aspect of like, yeah, I didn't want anybody to look at me like, oh yeah, that was good. You know,
Yeah.
Wow, it's really good. And it, you know, when Hawk says good punch, doll, you know, it was good. So
Excellent. I know there was another occasion where Dusty slapped you in the face too. This was in the ring though, and the crowd popped, which is an odd sight to see, which must be a credit to you, because you must have been such a good heel that they didn't mind seeing it happen.
Well, I believe that was like May of '85. It was like when Dusty was really starting to get his heat, like with Tully building up for the Great American Bash. And Dusty was afraid that whenever he slapped me, that it would actually turn him heel. He was afraid that that would happen. So whenever he slapped me, if you watch the crowd, even the women are going, hit her again, hit her again. And the women are and to me, it's scary, because I've taken people to a brink of almost insanity with the hatred that they had for me. Because if a woman's telling a man to hit another woman and she doesn't even know her and it's just a character, it was scary. But I look at it now, I look back, I don't think any female in wrestling had as much heat as I did in 1985. I just don't see it. It was fun. It was fun, but it was scary, because at any moment it could have gone really bad, real bad.
That's it. And this isn't in my questions, but it's just kind of made me think, what's it like to be hated like that on that level? Like, because I know that the Horsemen, I don't know if you would partake in going out with them to the bars after the shows or anything like that, but you're all hated people. and you're out in public after the shows like that. Did you ever have confrontations? It seems like you would have confrontations quite a lot in public.
With me, not so much, but like with the guys, you'd always have the guys come up with, you know, like all like a bantam chicken and being all puffed out their chest. But when you're with guys like Flair and Tully and Arn and the Road Warriors and those guys that when you walk into a place, nobody's gonna mess with you. They may talk about it, but they're not gonna do anything. And especially since I had the reputation of like being really tough and beating people up, you get kind of that look from across the room. But I never really had anyone come up to me. You got the looks, and I was often, I think the coolest thing was like 2 o'clock in Harris Teeter one night. I'm like shopping and the people are walking towards me. And you get that kind of eye contact where they think they recognize you, but you're not sure if they recognize you. And then on the other side of the aisle, it was like I could hear them. Yeah, that's that woman from wrestling. That's that girl that, yeah, she's on Wrestling with the Wrestlers. And you could hear them like get real excited. And I looked down in my basket and I've got like Cheetos and tampons. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to be a star, I need something else than Cheetos and tampons in my car. So I start putting other stuff in. But it's more that, like, that's the one from TV rather than the hatred. It's more like the day of the show and going to the show, you got more heat because people were more into it.
Right.
But really, I was very fortunate, and I really like being a heel more because the people did kind of leave you alone. Now with a baby face, it's totally different. You've got to be nice and you've got to be smiling and you've got to sign the autographs and everything and the hugs and the whole, and it's just so much being a baby face. With a heel, they kind of leave you alone. It's a lot better.
Cool. I wanted to ask about the Road Warriors. I've had some other people on the show, and every time the name of them have been brought up, there's always some, lovely stories about them. Do you have any stories about those guys and your interactions with them over the years?
I remember that Hawk had gotten some steroids, I guess, from the pituitary gland of a gorilla. And he was so excited about this stuff that he'd gotten from the gorilla. And I believe that after he took it, he actually grew like 2 inches, which is unusual for a man over 22 to actually grow in height. But it made him, like, stimulated his growth and the whole thing. So Roadrunners they were funny because they were from Minnesota, which my mom's from Minnesota, so we kind of had that aspect. But they were always, with a Spinal Tap movie where they said, why go to 10 when you can go to 11? Animal was like 12 and Hawk was like 15 all the time.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I love them. Okay, I wanted to bring it to Jim Cornette here because I think this is a bit of fun stuff. You take a tennis racket to the head on NWO Worldwide Wrestling in April 1986, and that also you have a bunch of matches on the Great American Bash Tour against Jim. How fun was this working with him?
Actually, he did the tennis racket to my stomach. It wasn't my head.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
That was a deal where I would never be able to have children. That was one of the things that but so yeah, it was to the gut. And oh my gosh, Jim and the Midnight Express got so much hate mail from that. There were guys in prison that wrote to me that said that they would get out and would list a date. And if I wanted them to take care of Cornette, just to let them know that they would go take care of Cornette for me. It was that serious. And I got, I would say, more than 5 letters like that. Like, seriously, they would take out Cornette for me. If I just let them know, they would take care of him. So I can imagine what Cornette got. It was kind of a fun angle, but for me, it was really hard because Cornette's promos were so brutal, and making fun of me and my size and my weight and the whole thing just over and over and over it was a little rough. but it was money and it worked. And you have to kind of realize, well, it's not really real, but it's still, some of those promos were a bit, they hurt, they stung.
I can imagine Tim does have a bit of
Oh, well.
an acid tongue. Acid
yeah.
tongue, sorry. Okay, you have such a great run there, and you end up leaving for the UWF. I know it's a long time ago, and you spoke about this before, but what reasoning was it that you ended up leaving after having this great run?
Well, Sam and I had just gotten married, and they were going to send him to Kansas City. I was going to stay and work with Flair. They just put me with Flair. I knew that if I ran with Flair, I would probably die. I could not run with him. I could not keep up with him. Just, it was one of those situations where it was not going to end well. And then just getting married, I didn't want to see Sam halfway across the country and never get to see him, and have him starving out there, and just, so why not starve and be miserable together? So I told Dusty I wanted to go to Kansas City, and it crushed him. I could tell that it really hurt him, but I mean, life goes on, and I look at it, it was kind of time for me to leave. It was a good time for me to leave because it just left the question of, like, where did she go? The whole thing. We went to Kansas City until, let me see, that would have been like September to January, maybe. We'd had enough, and then we went to Dallas, went to UWF. It was, back then you could go, you didn't have like really set contracts, that if you weren't happy with someone, pardon me, you could just go. And my contract was up with Crockett. It was, UWF was still going. Let me see, Grizz was working with Bill Watson, so we did a lot of trips with him, and it was kind of a good family thing to be together, and we had some good matches. Sam had really good matches with Eddie Gilbert, and then the girls with Missy and Dark Journey and Sunshine and myself, we had the 4-way cat fights, and it was a good couple of months. Some really, really long road trips. Oh my gosh. But we survived. We did really well. Then Sam went to WWF after that, and I went back to Crockett with Zbyszko for a little while.
Yep, that's right. And I'm going to bring up Zbyszko in a minute, but as you alluded to there with Ric Flair, I guess I wanted to ask a little bit about him, because I remember it was Bobby the Brain Heenan talking in his Hall of Fame speech about he was asked by Vince McMahon to be on the road with Ric Flair just for 6 months. I just need you to do it for 6 months, Vince said. And Bobby quit after about 5 days and told Vince that his liver was now on hold because he was on the road with Larry Flint. So I can imagine just from Bobby and the way that he reacted in his speech. But do you have any stories of any funny stories of Rick and his shenanigans back then?
Oh my gosh. I don't know how Rick did it, because he would be the first one in the lobby with a tuna fish sandwich and a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock in the morning, talking to the girl behind the counter, had all the maids, everybody like singing, dancing, on the go, was on the plane to the show, was the last one to leave the bar, and then back up first thing in the morning. I don't know where he got the energy. I tried to keep up. I couldn't do it. I'm trying to think of, like, there's so many Ric Flair stories, and so many that have been told over and over again.
I understand.
It's oh my gosh. Okay. I believe it was Jacksonville, Florida, but I'm not sure. We're in the bar, and Flair's got a couple of girls on each side. I'm off on the right-hand side over here, and there's a bunch of us just all circle the bar. Well, Flair's kind of talking to these girls. Well, this one girl walked in. She looked like a model, like Cosmopolitan, off the cover magazine, but like everything. She walked up to Flair and was just like you like these? And she opened up her dress and everything. And she said, do you like these? Exactly. Flair was like, and he says, yes, I do. And they just turned around and left. And that was it. And the other girls are like, what happened? And you have to kind of look like, you just got, you just got served, because the other girl just, I'd never seen that before. Never saw it ever again after that. But anytime Flair tells you a story of like what happened with girls, I guarantee it did. It really did.
It's like something out of a movie. It really is.
It was just one of those things that, like, it was almost like light shone on her whenever she walked in the bar, like it was all staged and the whole thing, and it was just only Flair.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That really tickled me. Okay, so yes, 88, you returned to Jim Crockett Promotions, managing good old Larry Zbyszko during his feud with Barry Windham over the Western States Heritage Championship. I know you've answered this before, but for those out there that may not know, your tenure was short-lived, as your husband at the time was working for the WWF, and it was regarded as a conflict of interest, which is, to me, sounds really weird, because I don't see that at all. But please, could you let me know what the go was here?
Well, Larry and I, out of the ring, great friends, everything's good, but in the ring, we just didn't click.
Right.
We didn't have the magic like what Tully and I did. It was just a lot of stuff going on, and for it to be a conflict of interest, I kind of see their point, but what am I going to tell anybody, or what's Sam going to tell anybody? I mean, I think it was a lot of excuses, because no one had the relationship like Sam and I did, where you're like conflicting territories and male and female and the whole thing. And it was new, and I don't think the guys knew how to react to it. To me, I would much rather them say that, hey, you and Larry aren't working out. We just can't find a spot for you right now, maybe later on down the road. But to make an excuse like with Sam and I, it was kind of cheap and petty. But it to me, it just didn't work out with Larry, and to let me go, that was fine. I mean, it's kind of weird in the wrestling business. Whenever they're done with you, you just, on the booking sheet, they just quit putting your name. They don't actually fire you. They just quit booking you.
Right.
Oh, well, time goes, life goes on. It was fine.
Now, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't try, even though I know you won't tell me, and that's fine. But the infamous envelope, I got to try, because everyone out there will be like, why didn't you at least try? This is your job, Carl. But look, I'll try, but I guarantee you she's not going to tell anybody what was in the infamous envelope that you had on Dusty there.
See, if it were up to me, I would tell, but back a long time ago, whenever I started coming back, like 2005, started doing interviews and things like that, people were asking like what was in the envelope, and I still actually have the envelope. It's up in my china cabinet. So I asked Dusty, I said, I was at like a fan fest, I believe it was in Capital City, Maryland. And I was like, Dusty, what should I tell people what's in the envelope? I know we didn't tell anybody like during the whole angle and everything, and I still have the envelope. What do I tell them? He said, baby, never tell you. He says, as long as you never tell them, they will always keep asking. And that's the whole thing. And it made so much sense, because if I'd come out, no, yeah, this, and this, and here's what's in the envelope, ta-da, there's no more magic left in the magic show. And that's the whole thing. And Dusty is a genius, and I'm not telling. Dusty told me not to.
Oh, that's great. No, I wanted that to happen. I wanted to be denied. So thank you for denying me. Awesome stuff. Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't at least try. World Wrestling Federation, 1988. You do a tryout with them. How did that go for you, and why wasn't there a tenure there for you? I know it went a bit longer.
Well, it was kind of crazy, because I was on the road with Sam, And I forget where we were at, but Sam just basically came up and said, "Hey, Leilani wants to work out with you. Go get your gear on." Okay, and this is like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're just going to take, I thought it was just taking some bumps in the ring.
Yeah.
I had no idea that like at that time, WWF was like looking at me. That was my tryout. No one told me. So it wasn't like I was goofing, but I wasn't as serious as I would have been if I know, because to me, it was just Leilani and I, and we're friends and we're just working out. I had no idea. Well, then Robin gets in the ring with her, and there's definitely a lot more intensity and spark in Robin's. Didn't really think of it, but they'd actually told Robin it was her tryout. So she got the spot. And to me, it's perfect because like everybody in our family who wanted to wrestled, because you had Jake and Mike and Robin and Grizz, and then you had myself, and everybody at one time, everybody was on the road. And so it was, I can't spite her for that. She had a great run with Sherry. She was so much better a wrestler than I ever would have been. I'm big and I'm bulky, and for my size, it would have been awkward to work with smaller girls, and they weren't doing the intergender thing. And not that I would have been any better. I'm just not very good at taking bumps, and she was so good, and she got to travel and everything. I'm just happy for everybody. So it all worked out. I'm good. I'm good with everything.
Excellent. So my research, it kind of at this point that there wasn't too much else that I could find except for a little bit later on into the 2000s. But did it get to a point where you just felt like you wanted to do something else with your life and move away from being involved in the wrestling business?
I had 2 babies. Sam and I were married in 1986, and then in 1991, January 1st, I had Micah Tyler in Charlotte, and then September the 15th of 92, I had Michaela whenever we were living in Lubbock. So I had 2 babies, and I knew that with the wrestling business, if I got involved in it, to be successful, I would never see my family. So I stepped away, didn't call anyone. I was still making gear for guys at that time. That was the only contacts I had. And basically just knew that for the next 15 to 18 years, I wouldn't be involved in wrestling. So I kind of just dismissed it, never thought I'd go back. And it wasn't until, I guess I did like a reunion fan fest in Tampa. The girls and I went to Sal Corriente had a deal in Tampa where I walked out to the ring with Jerry Lawler, and he went against Tully, and Tully had JJ in his corner, and Kevin Von Erich was our special referee. Then I really started doing more of the fan fest in like 2005, and actually moved back to North Carolina then, and pretty much have been doing shows since then. So it's been 16 years now that I've been doing like reunions and legends and fan fests and things like that. And I really like it because you get to see the fans and you get to hear all their stories, and the stories about sitting on the couch with the grandparents and how much they hated you and how much they loved you. And I love it. I just think it's so cool.
That is cool. Yeah, and it must be fun, like kind of, rehashing some of these old, things from back in the day, getting out there and opposing Tully and all that stuff. That must have been pretty fun to relive that stuff again.
Oh, it is.
I found this to be interesting. And again, if the research is wrong, please correct me. There's a show called on the 14th of February, 2009, NWA Mid-Atlantic Heritage Championship match at a show called NWA Charlotte Thorns and Roses at the Charlotte Coliseum. Is it true that you defeated the Barbarian in 47 seconds to win the championship?
Sure did. I absolutely did. I hit him on the back of the head with a crowbar. Got the pin, and I won. I won the Legends champion.
That is awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I was thinking, how the heck could a baby doll beaten the barbarian by a crowbar? I mean, come on.
It was like the thorns and roses. There was actually a crow. Someone had presented me with like this huge bouquet of roses, and in the roses was the crowbar. And whenever I hit them, then the roses like exploded, and then you could see like it was a crowbar. And yeah, it was good. And that was such a cool show, and they had a really neat setup, except for they weren't zoned for the events that they were having. So the fire marshal shut them down because I guess there was like one bathroom for like 600 people, and that was just, they didn't know why it was unacceptable.
Cracky. These two other matches that I've seen in my research, both against Jim Cornette for big time wrestling in, I believe, 2016. One at the Spartanburg Memorial Auditorium in South Carolina, and one at the Collette Street Recreation Center in Morganton, North Carolina. What was it like
Morganton's
after all those?
Yeah, Morganton's like 20 miles from my house.
All right. What was it like after all those years getting back in there to whoop Jim Cornette's ass one more time?
It was really fun, especially when I grab a headlock on the wrong side and Jim's going wrong side. And it was, it's really cool to get people so involved in the match, even, like what, 25 years later, you still get the pop and they still want to see you win, and they still want you to, I mean, Cornette's just got so much heat over the past like 40 years. It's just, if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have worked. So it's all Cornette, and thank you very much. And it's really funny because like my girls can see me work, and my girls can see like YouTube stuff, and it's very flattering and very humbling at the same time.
Excellent. Okay, so I believe it was this year, an episode of Dark Side of the Ring came out that you got to be a part of. Did you watch the episode, and how did you feel about it and the experience of shooting that? I
actually have not seen it.
Oh, really?
I figured I kind of know everything already, and it's to me it's almost sad because I didn't know about Robin until I actually heard her in an interview. And it broke my heart so much of what she went through and what I could have done, and if I could have done anything. And then the sense of my being so helpless and not being able to help her at that time, and just to hear that interview. And then now with the dark side, it's like, I don't know if I want to know anymore.
I understand.
I'm kind of good with it, and crazy times. You hear all the rumors, and you're right there living it, and you don't see it. It's a lot to deal with.
It was pretty shocking watching that episode, that's for sure. So I understand your thoughts on that. Wanted to bring it to, I guess, more of a positive thing here is the women's wrestling here in 2021. And I wanted to get your thoughts on how prevalent they are now on wrestling shows across the board. And yeah, just what you think.
Well, considering that, like, in 1985, whenever I really started, there was a handful of valets and probably 20 girls working throughout the United States. And now easily 200 girls, if not more. It is definitely changed. The whole scenario of it, everything has changed. And when I look at like what I had to deal with back then to what the girls have now, like with social media, I don't see how they can. That would be rough because you'd have so much good, but then you'd have that negative. No matter how good you're, like with Charlotte, like how anybody can disparage Charlotte Flair, but then they're so mean to her, and it's just, it would be rough with social media. I don't know if like being talent should have to deal with fans in that way, but you have to now. And it'd be scary. I mean, you had the girls down in Florida that they had the creeper in their house. You know, they're like spending the weekend together, just hanging out. And then you've got some creepy guy trying to break into your house out on the.
It pisses me off so much that there's some people are just mental, and I agree. The social media is, I see it every day on Twitter. I see just horrible, harsh comments from people that the picture isn't them, and it's not their real name. So it's just a made up account that they've got there.
Right.
And they just like, they will seek out whoever it is that they don't like and just target them with like real, just garbage, just hot garbage, just judgmental kind of comments to try and downplay their accomplishments. And I'm all about putting everybody that's been a part of the business on a pedestal. So I often get into arguments with people online, which I shouldn't do, but it's really toxic, the internet. And I'm glad that you didn't have to deal with that back in the day.
Right. It's so toxic, but once in a while you get that little gem. Someone will send you like a little video clip or a little picture or something that is just, it's like a diamond in the rough, or it's finding like platinum or whatever. And it almost makes the internet worthwhile. But yeah, the toxicity of it is really, it's dreadful. It's awful. And I try not to get too much involved into it. I'm more into the political. I'll be mean and nasty with politics, and wrestling is kind of different, but and I guess because there's no names with the faces and there's no accountability, I think people become a lot more bolder than, of course, when if they're standing right there in front of you. And sometimes I think that they just do stuff just to do stuff to get a reaction. There's no meaning behind it. There's no thought pattern. It's just wanting to get that reaction.
Absolutely. It's almost like if you're in person with somebody, then that thought you've got in your head has to filter through your brain, and the words have to come out your mouth. So the internet doesn't have that filter because you don't have that confrontation.
The accountability of it. Yeah. You've got no one looking at you going, you should not have done that. No.
Okay. Well, nice to hear your thoughts on that. We're getting close to the end of the interview here, Baby Doll. And one other question I wanted to ask about. We had an interview. We had this interview scheduled a few weeks ago, but something happened to your husband with some hornets. I was wondering if you could tell me about what happened there, because the picture that you showed me of his hand, it had blown up like a balloon.
Oh my God. Yes. My husband is like the man's man. I mean, he hunts, he cuts steel, he can work all the big equipment, he can drive the 18-wheeler, whatever you need to have done, he'll do. Well, his bosses with the place that he's working wanted him to clear out, I believe it was like 10 acres. They had like a pine wood forest. So there was a couple of oak trees, but a bunch of pines that he had to just level. They were going to do a pasture and a couple of corrals for their horses. So when they were clearing the land, there was like this big stump, and he went over there to go knock it over. Well, there was a hornet's nest in there. So whenever he knocked it over, they swarmed. He's in the excavator trying to go across the field as fast as he can with all these hornets. He said it was like a cartoon, like with a big cloud and the hornets, and it got him on it. Whatever skin they could find, that's where they glommed onto it. So his hands, his arms, his underarms, he had holes in the legs of his jeans. So like the hornets went up inside of his pants legs, around like where his sock line was. I counted 48 knots where they had stung him on his neck, his everywhere, but his hands were the ones that were the worst. So he's got like footballs for hands the next day, and he wants to go because his boss is out of town, and he's wanting to get all this work done so that his boss will be really happy whenever he comes back. Plus, one of the guys that he works with gave up a trip to the beach to work the dump truck the next day. So he's obligated, you know, your friend has given up the trip to the beach. I've really got to work. So the next day he actually taped his hands to the controllers so he could work the excavator, and the other guy was driving they were loading dirt. So he'd load the dirt up in the dump truck, then the guy would dump it off, then bring it back, they'd load up more dirt with his hands taped to the controllers. That's my guy.
Okay, that is a real man's man if I've ever heard of one.
Right. And
Thank you for sharing that.
His hands stayed swole up for probably 5 days where he couldn't like close them all the way. And it was like,
Yeah.
I think it was like on the 5th day that he could actually get his wedding ring back on his finger where the swelling had gone down enough.
Oh my gosh, scary stuff. So with that being said, any fans out there of Baby Doll wondering what life is like for you these days? What is a typical week in the life of Baby Doll right now?
Oh my gosh. I have a small farm. I have like 45 chickens and a turkey and 3 dogs and a 6-year-old. We're actually raising my husband's 6-year-old grandson, so he started 1st grade. We have great adventures. I have like a little over 8 acres. It's not a lot, but it's just right to be able to walk. And I've got a big trail, and been having lots of vegetables this summer with cucumbers and tomatoes, and getting ready for okra to start. And it's just, I live in Western North Carolina, so it's like a perfect place. I've lived so many places, and this is perfect. I've got mountains. I'm like 3 hours from the beach. My one daughter, my youngest daughter, lives up in Lenoir. My oldest daughter lives over in Asheville, so all my family is really close. It's a very happy time, a very blessed time. Best of all, I've got a really super husband that takes really good care of me, and I love him and he loves me, and it's just a really, really good time in our lives. Just super. And getting to do podcasts and getting to talk to everyone, it's the best of both worlds, because I can have my little wrestling thing going on, and like my deal with Ryder, and being hanging out with a 6-year-old and my husband and my kids, and it's really cool. Really
That's
cool.
awesome. That really warms my heart to hear that. I love hearing that. And where you're living in your situation, that's like my dream, is to kind of like live in a place like that. That sounds really amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And before we go here today, I do have one final segment of the show. It's called 5 Second Frenzy. It's 12 quick fire questions. So you got 5 seconds to answer each question. It's not that daunting though. It's just your favorite this, your favorite that. So
Okay.
Here we go. Baby Doll, 5 Second Frenzy. Who would you say is your favorite wrestler of all time?
Favorite wrestler of all the time would be Terry Funk.
Excellent choice. Over the years, having performed in the ring, or being at odds with somebody in the business, who would you say is your favorite opponent?
My favorite opponent would have to be Cornette.
Excellent. Would that be the same too if I asked you what would be your favorite match that you've had over the years in the wrestling business?
My favorite match that I've had over the years just happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was managing my daughter Samantha Starr when she faced, oh my gosh, I cannot, Chalance, and she had Dark Journey in the corner. That was my all-time favorite match. My daughter was an absolute superstar.
Awesome. I'll have to look her up and see what's going on there.
And see, they let us be heels, which was so cool. Yeah, they actually let us be heels.
That must have been good fun. Getting away from wrestling now, getting into the arts here. What is your favorite book?
Gone with the Wind.
Excellent choice. Favorite TV show?
The Office.
Oh, one of my favorites as well. I think I've seen it 3 times through already now. Favorite film?
Favorite film? Over the Rainbow.
Nice. You're doing real.
Okay, I was gonna say Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, but yeah, I got you.
No, you're doing really well here. You're getting the answers out quick. Most people have a hard time getting their answers out quick. Favorite musical artist?
Oh my gosh. Just one?
Just one. That's okay. You can pick a few if you want.
There's not, see, there used to be so many go-tos, and now I don't have any go-tos anymore because everybody's like changed so much. If I was going to choose one, it would be between Pink Floyd and Aerosmith.
Oh, yes. Aerosmith are definitely one of my favorite bands. Excellent.
I named my oldest daughter Tyler because of Steven Tyler. My
Really?
married name was Smith at the time. So if it was a boy, I was going to name him Colton Aerosmith because I thought Aerosmith for a boy would be really cool. Because how cool would it be if a guy walked up to you and went, "Hi, my name's Aero"? That would be so cool. But
that is perfect. Yeah.
and then I found out she was a girl, so I named her Micah Tyler Smith because of Sam's name's Mike, and then my name, we kind of combined everything. So it was cool.
That's cool. And some good choices there. Getting away from the arts now, favorite food?
Oh, favorite food. I love sushi. I think sushi is kind of my all-time favorite right now.
Nice.
Found out my limit was, yeah, I found out my limit. We had I had done a show up in New York. I came back, I hadn't eaten in like 24 hours. I wanted to get sushi. I found out like 22 pieces of sushi is my limit. I can't eat after that.
Awesome. Favorite place to eat on the road?
Oh, wow. Chinese buffets. That's kind of where you can kind of look at the food. That's kind of my go-to.
Nice. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
Bloody Marys.
Excellent.
All day long.
Excellent. And the second last one.
You can have it. So you can have them for breakfast. You can have them for breakfast. You can have them for lunch. You can have them for suppers, and they're healthy. So yeah, Bloody Marys.
Yep. No, I dig. The second last one for 5 Second Frenzy is, what would be, you see a good looking guy, what would be your go-to? What is your favorite male body part or attribute?
Oh, wow. Athleticness, like just height and broadness, like athleticism.
Right. Excellent. And the last one, I don't believe you have said one swear word in this interview so far, but it's your favorite curse word.
Oh, fuck. Fuckity fuck. Get off my fucking properties, you fucking idiots, has been my favorite saying for about 6 months now because I've got idiot neighbors. Yes.
Thank you very much, baby doll.
You didn't expect that one, did you?
No, it's fantastic. I really want to thank you for your time to talk with me and connect with me today. This has just been a lot of fun. I know it took us a while to get here, but we finally got here. We've had fun. And I wanted to say before I sail off into the sunset tonight that you should be so proud of everything that you've accomplished in your life, in the business, out of the business, living your best life right now. It's so important that you are. And I'm happy to hear of it. And from the most isolated city in the world, Perth, Western Australia, you have somebody here that appreciates you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. Are you guys in lockdown now? I'm hearing so many stories and just the craziness of what you guys are going through.
Luckily, on my side of the country, we are we're so isolated, and our border's been locked down for quite some time that we don't have to wear masks. Everything's there's no cases over here, but on the east side of the country, yes, there are some problems going over there, but hopefully by the end of the year it might be under control. But yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Yeah.
Well, blessings to you, and hopefully it still goes good for you. I hope so, and from you guys, it just keeps spreading outward. So all we have to do is just wait and see.
That's it. Excellent. And I just want to thank you again for being on the show and connecting with me today.
Well, you're welcome. It was very nice. Thank you so much.
No problem. And thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, California, in Fury, with my new friend, baby doll, Nicola Roberts, and we will see you next time. Thank you.